Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the God whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. Why should we feel good to be Muslims? Uh, Another important reason is that whatever we have been asked to do in our rituals, the regular expectations from believers, uh, they are all meant, targeted to make us good humans, devoted servants of the Almighty who are prepared to do all that is good and virtuous. We talked about the formal prayers, as salat and alms giving, as zakat, yesterday. Likewise, we are expected to fast during the month of Ramadan. And if we have the ability, the resources to go for pilgrimage Hajj, we are expected to do that as well. These two rituals as well are expected to inculcate in us uh, the ability of being good, virtuous, and devoted to to the cause of goodness. Uh, Take fasting, for example. The Almighty Himself has set forth for us while we fast the target to be God conscious. He mentions that fasting has been prescribed on us, as indeed it was prescribed on those who came before us, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may become God conscious, so that you are able to operate in your life within the limits prescribed by the Almighty. The limits prescribed by Him are the limits of piety, of goodness, of virtuousness. Uh, we humans tend to go wrong, tend to go beyond limits, because within us humans there is a tendency of getting attracted towards the evil. We have within us temptations that cause us to go wrong. For that, we need to be disciplined. For that, we need to be strong from inside. And for that purpose, we are required to go through this exercise of fasting for one full month, wherein from dawn to dusk, we put check on our natural, uh, permissible desires. Uh, we do it just for the sake of God. We do it, as God Himself says, in order to make sure that we create within ourselves the kind of self control that would enable us to become good humans, to not, then go beyond the limits that have been set forth for ourselves. So, fasting is meant to make us good humans. Fasting enables us to therefore become virtuous. It is therefore declared that if a person who, while fasting, is not virtuous, is actually wasting his time. He is keeping himself hungry and thirsty unnecessarily. Uh, Likewise, fasting is also meant to make us thankful and grateful. Uh, it is able to make us grateful because we realize as a consequence of going through the practice of fasting, we go through an experience wherein we are deprived of some of the blessings of the Almighty, even though we can avail them, we can dodge, deceive people, and uh, avail the possibility of consuming uh, what we need because of our hunger and thirst, but we don't do it. And therefore, temporarily we suffer. And while we suffer, we realize how important these blessings are. Quite obviously, we only realize the significance of blessings when we are deprived of them. So, this temporary deprivation enables us to become grateful. it enables us to value the significance of these blessings. Uh, that also creates within us patience. Uh, in order for us to become good humans, we need to be patient. We need to be able to endure difficult times. And that's exactly what fasting does to us. Fasting enables us to become more charitable. We become charitable only, genuinely only, when we are able to empathize with those who are suffering. So when we are hungry and when we are thirsty, we do realize that the people who go through the difficulties of hunger and thirst, who go through the difficulties of deprivation, are the ones who really suffer. We suffer only for a short while. We suffer even though we know that this suffering is going to come to an end uh, not very long from now. And yet we know that it's difficult. Yet we know that it is painful. So when we are able to empathize with those people who suffer all year round and they do not have any realistic hope that their suffering is going to be overcome, to be taken away, we do realize that these people are the ones who really deserve to be helped out. Uh, all in all, this month is a great blessing for all humans who go through this experience, to be able to come out of it with a renewed spirit of not just not just uh, religiosity, the traditional religiosity of getting attached more strongly to God, but more particularly with a renewed spirit of serving humanity, of being disciplined, of doing things in the right manner, and not allowing our inner instincts to go beyond limits. And that's really a brilliant experience. It's a brilliant, uh, welcome annual uh, exercise of revisiting our past mistakes and correcting them, and thus be able to become better humans. Uh, that's one thing. The other ritual that we have been asked to go through is the ritual of pilgrimage to the house of God, which takes the form of Hajj, the bigger one or the lesser one. Uh, the real Hajj, which a Muslim, a believer, is expected to go for once in a lifetime, if there's a possibility for the individual to travel. The possibility obviously should be there, both from the point of view of one's financial, economic capacity, and both as well as one's physical ability to travel. Uh, this exercise of Hajj is nothing but an invitation that God Almighty has extended to us, to humans, to believers, to come and visit His house and to be able to symbolically undergo the process of a jihad, of undertaking a battle against Satan, the evil one. Hajj, the exercise of Hajj is uh, it enables the individual, the Haji, the person who is going through the exercise, to go through various rituals which are expressed in the form of shairullah. These are religious symbols. They're all symbolically expressed, and they are meant for the individual to experience and go through them, uh, taking into consideration the fact and the reality that he and she knows quite clearly that what is being done is not merely a ritual which has to be undertaken for the sake of it. There is a definite meaning behind what we are doing. Uh, the ultimate goal that we are all able to achieve while we are doing Hajj is to fight against Satan, the evil one. That's what is expressed when we are doing what is known as Rami-e Javarat. We are pelting stones at the Satan. The three monuments, the biggest, the one middle in size, and the smaller. And the idea is that while we are pelting stones, and we do it at least 7 times, spread over 3 days, the idea is to have within us a very strong feeling of hatred against evil. We should acknowledge and recognize that the evil of Satan is expressed in different forms. We have been given to experience that we are going to do this exercise of expressing our displeasure and hatred against Satan. Uh, and it's going to be done over and over again because the evil one is going to come to us for causing us to go wrong repeatedly. And therefore, this exercise is done repeatedly. Uh, we have been given to understand that the satanic onslaught, attack on us, takes various different forms. It happens sometimes in ways, in forms which are expressed in the form of the major sins. Sometimes those sins are smaller in nature, and sometimes seemingly even smaller. What we have been taught is that we will continue this struggle, strive, jihad against Satan, the evil one, uh, and we will do it in all its manifestations. So, this exercise, its culmination, is actually an exercise of fight against the evil. That is exactly what enables us to become uh, more conscious humans who are alert, aware of the fact that as human beings, we are facing a challenge of Satan, and the challenge is real. It's ongoing. It would never end. So therefore, we've got to be vigilant. We've got to be continuously struggling and striving to strike against the evil. Uh, these symbols, they therefore help Haji greatly in creating within himself uh, an understanding, an awareness to make sure that this evil is fought against continuously. We go there and we do a number of other things that help us in enabling to achieve the same purpose. Before we start doing it on the 10th of Zulhajj, the month of Hajj, the Hajis go to a plain of Arafat where they pray to the Almighty to enable us, we to enable us to get rid of the evil that we had done before. We pray to Him to make sure that we have within us a strong yearning and spirit to fight against the enemy, the fight, the battle that's about to take place the next day. That exercise helps us in understanding that in order for us to be able to fight the enemy, we will need the help of God. So, God is approached first. We seek His help. We raise our hands and we express our feelings as they come to us. And we do it over a long period of time. Uh, Again, the idea is that we ought to know that fighting against evil and conquering evil, overcoming the temptations that we have within us, is not going to be a simple exercise. We'll have to be uh, fully prepared for it, mentally and spiritually. And we cannot fight against the enemy, fight against evil without God's help. So, in other words, our faith enables us to have the kind of preparation to fight against evil uh, which no other uh, understanding, no other point of view uh, would ever offer. because this whole exercise of Hajj is actually a, a way of making us aware of the fact that this whole struggle of life is a struggle against evil temptations that we have within us. So, the whole exercise that we are required to go through has a number of different stages that uh, we go through to make ourselves more and more prepared for us, prepared for the purpose. So, for example, there is another ritual that we go through, which is the ritual of animal sacrifice. Uh, Animal is sacrificed, slaughtered, and the feelings that we are required to have within us is a feeling of offering ourselves to the Almighty to be sacrificed as and when there be a need. Uh, this sacrifice is going to be meant for the cause of goodness, the cause of virtue against the evil. Uh, Quite often, what the evil um, throws across at us in the form of challenge is uh, situations where we are called upon to make extra effort. We are expected to make sacrifice, sacrifice of our time, sacrifice of our self interests, sacrifice of our energies, sacrifice of our wealth. Uh, we want to tell our Creator that all that we have with us, at times, sacrifice of life as well, is all on offer. We are here to tell Him that, look here, whatever you have given us is yours. We are fully prepared to offer everything that is with us for the sake of goodness. We are here to sacrifice it. But because you've been kind enough, oh God, to not ask us to sacrifice our lives and wealth and time completely, not at the moment. Therefore, we are symbolically sacrificing this animal to let you know that we are serious about it. And that's exactly what the Quran tells us. This exercise is not merely a ritual of slaughtering an animal. He says that it's neither the blood of the animal nor its flesh that reaches God. It is our commitment, our God consciousness, our awareness of the fact that this exercise is being done for a real purpose that reaches Him. During this exercise of Hajj, men they shave off their heads and thus declare that they have become God's slaves, uh, as indeed used to be the case while slavery was in vogue. That a man who would become the slave of a master would shave off his head and thus make that firm, clear declaration that he has now become he is now committed to serving a certain master, and others should therefore not bother. Uh, that's what we're expected to do during the time of Hajj, that we shave off our heads and thus declare to Satan that, look here, we are now fully committed to our Master, Creator, the Almighty, and therefore don't expect that we are going to follow you. Uh, this whole exercise of Hajj enables us to visit God's house, the small uh, room that was erected in order for humans to be able to remember God. That experience of facing God's house for the purpose of remembrance uh, is an experience of the lifetime. Um, we are able to come close to God. We are able to get a feeling that we can talk to God, we can pray to Him. Uh, the kind of proximity and closeness spiritually that we get is unparalleled. It's not something that can be replaced by anything else. Uh, this experience is what the Haji carries back to his normal routine life, and the memory of it is always there for him to be able to get back spiritually to the same experience in his mind and seek God's help. And obviously, this help is sought in order for all the good things that one is expected to do in this worldly life. All in all, what I was expected to present in this series of presentations was that why exactly is it that the faith that we have been given by birth is a faith whose understanding of its belief system and its practices should make us feel good about it? And the answer is that this whole understanding of our religion, whether it's beliefs or whether it's rituals and practices, they are all meant to do one thing, and that is to make us good humans, well rounded personalities who are aware of what our obligations are, and we are expected to discharge our obligations to the best of our abilities. And the great thing about it is that our faith enables us to get complete picture of this life. We get the feeling, the understanding that the life that we are living is uh, is only a part of the Almighty's grand plan of an eternal life. And this life that we are experiencing is a trial. And in order for us to be able to succeed in this trial, we've got to be careful, we've got to be serious, and we've got to know that there are challenges around us, and our religion, our religious expectations from the Almighty, all put together, they are all meant to make sure that we are able to meet that challenge successfully and then to be able to go to the next phase of life where we always hope that we are going to be successful. Uh, that's all from me, and now I expect your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zahir. So tonight's the last class of this course. So, first we can ask questions regarding the topic that Dr. Zahir covered tonight. And, when we run out of questions, we can ask any questions about anything that he has taught in this course. And when we run out of those, then we can start asking general questions if we still have time left. So unmute your microphone and start asking.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Khalid.
Walaikum salam.
Dr. Khalid, this is a part of the struggle I've been going through for a very long time, and it's consistent. And it's a part of what you've taught in these sessions, why it feels good to be a Muslim. I'm sorry, it's not on the topic of tonight, but I really need you to guide me. We have a family member married to an American.
So can I just interrupt? If it's something that it's not about the topic tonight, then let's just give everybody else a fair chance, and then, if nobody else has any questions, then we'll come back to you for any general questions.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'll do that.
No problem.
Thank you.
So anybody has a question about the topic tonight or anything related to the course that we have covered throughout Ramadan? Okay, I have a few questions that I have received. So what they're asking is that how should one know if if it's an evil attack by Satan versus it's our own will that we are trying to do something bad?
Actually, the evil that we face in this life uh, has both these possibilities. Uh, Within ourselves, there is an inclination to do evil. That's a part of our personality, that's a part of our nafs. Uh, what Satan does is nothing but encourage that evil inclination to go ahead, to manifest itself. So for us, practically, it makes no difference. We are confronted with the challenge of facing this inner inclination to do evil, and we have to combat it, we have to stop it, we have to fight it. uh, Satan is only there to whisper evil ideas, evil thoughts within our souls, for those evil inclinations to be activated. Uh, so we cannot be very sure as to whether it's because of the evil suggestion of Satan that we have gotten within us this inclination, or whether it's our own inner feelings of evil that are causing us to do what is wrong. For us, there is only one challenge, that we are facing that evil. There is an inner urging that is causing us to do what is bad, and we must do everything to stop it.
Great, sir. Thank you. So, another question: what is the significance of not clipping nails during Hajj?
Uh, in a part of the exercise of Hajj, when we are in a state of ihram, we are required to uh, go through the experience of somebody who has forsaken everything for God for a certain while. Uh, it's an experience for all individuals who are going through the exercise of ihram, to be completely, totally focused for the sake of the Almighty. We undertake a journey to meet God spiritually. And we've been asked that in order for us to be able to do it properly, we've got to say goodbye to our worldly commitments, to our worldly attachments. And this again is an exercise. It's a formality which has been required to be done symbolically. The idea is that right now we are not bothered to look at any of our worldly needs. We are completely and totally focused uh, to remember God, to meet Him, to meet Him spiritually, and for that purpose, we have given up everything. So it is indeed an extreme way of dealing with the matter, but indeed, we've been asked ordinarily that we cannot leave this world, and monasticism is not allowed in Islam. But this is a very temporary form of monasticism, of giving up worldly life for a certain while, for us to be able to experience God as much fully as is possible. So not being allowed to clip our nails is one part of that formality.
Okay, so this is a kind of a follow-up question from me. Doesn't this go against our understanding of Deen about purification and tazkiyah and keeping our body clean and everything else? So, you know, it kind of sounds odd that, it should be more um, instilled that, during Hajj, make sure that you clip your nails and make sure that you are pure.
You see, the life that we are going through has both these aspects within us that are there simultaneously. There is this aspect of coming close to God, and for that purpose, uh, leaving aside everything that has got to do with worldly life. We do need it sometimes, because the attraction, the glamour of this life is so strong that it always sucks our attention towards itself in a very strong way. There's such a strong force of gravity that this worldly attraction, uh, it takes us away from our commitment to God, towards itself. So, in order to fight this tendency, fight this very strong inclination, we have been asked to do an exercise which is an extreme exercise. That is why this duration is very small. If you look at it, I mean, there are two possibilities. You're going for Umrah. Well, when your journey finishes, you reach the house of God, you perform Umrah and do Sa'i. It's all over. In most cases, it just finishes within 24 hours. In case of Hajj, it's 8th of Dhul Hajj, 9th, and on the 10th, it's all over. So this temporary stage experience of going through an exercise when we forsake everything for the sake of God, although would cause us to be temporarily uh, not completely pure, we still go through it because it's worth it to be able to experience that overwhelming devotion to God when such natural instincts as remaining clean is uh, is forsaken for the time being. So it's a kind of a balance that needs to be maintained, and we have been asked to go through this a temporary experience of monasticism where we've given up everything for the sake of God.
Great, sir. Thank you. Talat Sahaba, you seem to have a question.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, sir, my question is that the men during the performance of Hajj, Umrah, they just wear unstitched two pieces of cloth, while the women can wear anything. So why is there a difference of dressing up during Hajj?
That's another aspect of this exercise, which gives us a feeling that, the Almighty wants us to be virtuous and devoted to His cause in a balanced way. Uh, we know that it is in the nature of the two uh, beings that the Almighty has created, men and women, that if men are dressed in the formal ihram, the way they are, with two pieces of cloth, one covering the lower part of their body and the other the upper part of the body, uh, it's fine and okay. There is nothing wrong with it. Women, if they are clad in a way uh, that their dress is not fully covering them properly, their bodies, and they're scantily dressed, uh, then it can cause uh, evil to spread. There could be a possibility amongst men to have evil thoughts in their minds, in their hearts. So even while when we are expected to go through an exercise of monasticism, of cutting off our relations with the worldly life, the rest of the world temporarily, God has not allowed us to go beyond limits of decency. He has not allowed us to do things which, even if they are done for a short while, they might cause within us, within humans, an evil tendency. That again is a very subtle and fine balance that has been maintained and created for women to be able to get the same feeling that they are on an important journey. They can just look at the dress of men and tell themselves that uh, what we are now going through is an experience which is a divine experience, an experience from God for us to be completely focused in our devotion to Him. So it's in the nature of what women are, the way they have been created, that they are not allowed to be dressed in a manner that would allow another evil uh, to show its head and thus spoil the whole exercise.
Yes, so the unstitched clothing for men is again the same uh, idea that keeping it simple and being unworldly, sort of.
That's right. That's what it is. That it enables you to have a feeling that right now you're being completely simple in your dress, and you are required to cover yourself up in a way which is the simplest of all. And this is also meant to make sure that the Hajis are reminded that right now they are undertaking a journey to meet God. And these two simple pieces of cloth are the ones which we also use for covering the bodies, dead bodies of our people who have left this world. So it really is a very effective reminder that this is a very serious, important journey that we have embarked upon. And the very dress, the very appearance of a Haji, the men Hajis, enable the atmosphere to become focused.
Thank you, sir. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else has a question regarding the topic, tonight's topic, or the course in its entirety? Please unmute your microphone and start asking.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum.
Okay, so the thing is that my question is not very much related to the topic, but since this is the last session we're having with you, and I had a feeling to ask this from someone as educated as you in this respect. So it was about itikaf, and what you were saying that Hajj is a practice to to do this thing that you separate yourself from the worldly players, worldly connection, and all that stuff, right? So I know it is not an obligatory thing to do, but it is something proved by Sunnah or has been followed, and people are following this like from a very long time. If someone plans to do this thing, what should be the what should he be thinking? What should be his plans, and why should he do it?
The idea of itikaf is again the same, that we are temporarily cutting ourselves off from our worldly attachments, worldly obligations, worldly pleasures, in order to focus ourselves, our attention, to be able to remember God, to come close to Him. Well, the idea that the target should be very simple, that here is an opportunity for me to worship God with all my devotion, with minimal distraction from the outside world. Uh, Ordinarily, the kind of trial that we are going through in this worldly life is that on the one hand, we are expected to come close to God, but on the other hand, there are these worldly temptations, the glamour of this world, which is constantly trying to distract us from our devotion to God, even when we are going through the five formal prayers each day. But itikaf is one opportunity, quite apart from Hajj and Umrah, which obviously sometimes comes in a person's life once in a lifetime. Here is an opportunity which comes our way every year, when we can cut ourselves off from our worldly contacts and attachments to focus more on remembering God. This experience, this spiritual experience of remembering God and coming close to Him, uh, becomes pure and effective the more we are able to cut ourselves off from our worldly interests, our worldly inclinations. And this experience becomes rich, it becomes more and more profound, and that's what the whole idea is.
Thank you, sir. Um, Anybody else has any question? Please start asking. Rafia Saiba, you can ask your question.
Dr. Khalid, as I said, we have a family member, an American is in our family. What happens with me is that every time I meet him or his parents in the States, which is quite regularly, I have this extreme tendency in me to start talking to them about the Quran and what they should do. They seem to be very happy in the faith they are following, and they are very sincere in it. But I feel, since the Quran is the message for all mankind, my question to you is, how far do my religious duties go? Because sometimes I feel that it gets a little embarrassing for everyone. Thank you.
God's message, the Quran, and his religion, Islam, is indeed meant for all humans. But the way it is to be presented to others is, according to the message itself, it should be done wisely. It should be done naturally. Uh, when we say that God's message is meant for the entire humanity, what we actually mean is that the Almighty has given to each human being a personality which looks forward to an explanation of this life, which is making sense, which convinces, which is naturally attracting us towards it. So there has to be a vacuum in the lives of others, for which reason they should be looking for an answer, a response which would fill that vacuum. Uh, so we must approach those individuals in a manner that they should naturally feel inclined to ask us as to what our understanding is. Uh, if we are going to overdo it, it's very likely to be counterproductive. Ordinarily, we are expected to behave as good Muslims, as good humans, uh, while we conduct our affairs with others, with non-Muslims, having been good humans, attending to all the genuine needs of humans, uh, being morally upright individuals. While we do all that stuff, we also go through our rituals of praying regularly, fasting. At times, people would go for Hajj and Umrah. We pay zakat, etc., and do quite a few other things. Now, if we are close with non-Muslims and we are being good to them as well, they are also good, decent humans, I'm sure. But because of that uh, vacuum, that's that uh, part of their life experience where certain questions remain unanswered, uh, they are going to be naturally inclined to seek answers, to seek solutions to their, call them spiritual problems. Uh, we should actually look for those opportunities to get created naturally. And for that purpose, we should pray to God that opportunity should surface itself. And as and when it happens, we should be mentally, academically prepared for it. Uh, but obviously, imposing something on others, even when they are not interested and prepared, is something which is not advisable.
Dr. Saad, thank you.
Just a follow-up of this, I'm sorry, is that if they know my faith, they know I eat halal meat, they know everything, they know we pray.
Rafi Saab, we're out of time. Very sorry, but hopefully next time you can catch it.
We don't have to impose myself. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So thank you very much, Dr. Zaheer. You've done a wonderful. Yeah, Farhan Saab, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Just want to say, I mean, I know this is the last lecture and we have Eid next week. I just wanted to have your take amid this pandemic. What do you think about the Eid prayers? Should we pray at home, or should we? What should we do about that?
Eid prayer obviously is a congregational prayer. It is said with uh, all Muslims of a certain community coming together. Now that we are not in a position to say our congregational prayers for obvious reasons, because if we're going to do it, it's going to cause us to create problems and would threaten the health and lives of others as well. So our religion wants us not to do so. When that's the situation, then obviously during Eid, we're going to stay at home. And if that's the case, then the only next best alternative is what we should be looking forward to doing. And one of the suggestions, which is something that we should look into, is that instead of going through the process of khutbah that is delivered by an imam, which obviously can be delivered online, I mean, virtually by somebody, and that also would not be a bad idea. But the two formal rakats of prayers that we uh, normally say at the time of Eid prayer can also be said at home. And obviously, it accompanies additional takbirat, which we can very easily learn. And I think it's not going to be a bad idea if we say these two rakat prayers in order for us to feel, a sense of accomplishment that at least we have done something to be able to perform our Eid. And obviously, we should take a bath and we should be dressed well, etc. I think some alternative is possible and should be looked into.
So thank you so much on behalf of Ghamidi Center and Al-Mawrid US. I really want to thank you. I know it's a difficult, I mean, we made you get up early morning, early in the
No, it was a pleasure. Once you are up and running, you're as good as anybody else.
morning.
So it was a bit of a struggle, but I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience with.
Thank you to all the participants also who took part in it. Thank you so much on behalf of
Thank you very much.
Also, please keep your eyes and ears open. Follow our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and inshallah, we'll be offering a whole lot of new courses, later on. So hope you'll join us, inshallah.
Thank you
Assalamu
very
alaikum,
much.
Dr. Zaheer. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid and everyone else.